When large jobs require moving massive amounts of snow, get the work done quickly and efficiently with the Western Pile Driver and all-new Pile Driver XL pusher plows, both featuring Trace Edge technology. These pushers scrape down to the pavement with an advanced cutting-edge system that has independent 2-foot sections that move vertically, oscillate, and trip. Get more jobs done faster with the Western Pile Driver lineup of pusher plows.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and I have with me this morning special guest, Wes Bergmann, founder of the Beta Blocks. Good morning, Wes.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. How are you doing?
Or should I say, well?
You can say, well. You can.
Well. What is going on, everybody? I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. I see it's still Christmas at your house.
You know what? It's Christmas mostly out of laziness. And also, this is a brand new tree, and I set it up, and I almost died when I set it up, but I don't have a large enough ladder to get it down. And we're actually blizzarded in right now. I don't know if you can see at all, but
yeah.
I can't. I got to go get a new ladder. And I can't really get there. Or I guess I should say I've got other things. So I'm just going to stay snowed in, and we're going to keep the tree up for a little bit longer.
There you go. That's a nice way to do it. I just didn't know if it was always Christmas in the Bergmann household.
I like it. I don't mind. Yeah, no, I think at some point I'm going to need to get that sucker down. I mean, we're still in early January. It's like,
yeah, we are. It's all good. It's all good. My wife was working on taking ours down the other day, and I was like, okay, that's nice. It's not as tall. I'm guessing that's a fake tree since you're saying you set it up.
Yeah. This is 14 feet.
Yeah, that's a nice. You've got some tall ceilings over there. That's good. Congratulations on your success. Tall ceilings and success, I think they go together.
Really, it's just overcompensating for
That's fun. So the what is it? You got a black Corvette, right?
Nope, it's a McLaren.
Oh, it's a McLaren. Okay, yeah. I couldn't tell from the picture exactly. So you got a McLaren. This is
the Corvette doors don't go up.
Right. Okay. I'm not a car guy. I'm not a car guy. I'm a truck guy.
You spend the extra buttloads of money just to make sure that the doors go up.
Yeah. So these cars can range in the $1 million range.
It is not a $1 million McLaren, but yeah, there's a line or two of really kind of high end race cars that McLaren makes that are in that range. But the one I have is not in that range.
So was this a Christmas gift to yourself, or was this just having some fun, enjoying the entrepreneurial journey?
I think it's more to do with enjoying the entrepreneurial journey, but it did happen to come on Christmas.
Well, there you go. That's pretty cool. So is this going to be a daily driver, or is this going to sit in the parking in the driveway for a while?
Well, again, I just showed you my outside. I'm snowed in.
Right. That's not one to take in the snow.
No, not at all. It's not going to get very much use in the winter, but I can look at it in the garage, and it's beautiful there.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I won't get too much into the rest of your Christmas gifts, but founder of Beta Blocks, and it's basically at its core a business incubator. Now, for our audience, the majority of people will know, hey, Wes Bergmann, reality TV star on, multiple, TV shows over the last 20 years. Why get into entrepreneurship when you have a successful TV, star program rolling? Why do that?
Well, it's a little bit of the question should be framed like in the opposite way, like why get into reality TV when you're on a path of being a successful entrepreneur? Because I have been an entrepreneur since I was a little kid, obviously with
Okay.
very immature kid stuff, and then it just kind of steamrolled into one bigger and more complicated and more adult-like thing after another. My thesis to graduate college was on a modern business incubator, and so like I have been on this path for a very, very long time. I actually just checked my LinkedIn, and people are congratulating me on 17 years. I didn't even know it was that long. So the question should be kind of like why do reality TV if you've already got this other path? And the answer is I just really want to do both.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is my passion in the way that other people have career passions, and I love it for all the reasons that I'm sure that we're going to touch on. But I also love reality television, and specifically the types of games that I play on television. To me, scratch the same itch. When someone likes to do marathons and triathlons, this is just my version of that, because we run marathons inside of our games, but I also get to jump out of helicopters and solve puzzles and wrestle guys. And it's a way of keeping me young and getting to see the world. And that is would be hard to replicate in my local intramural soccer team,
Right.
which I also do. But so I kind of do both, and for different reasons.
And you also run marathons, right?
Yep.
How many have you ran?
Well, I don't run them formally. They're inside of our show.
Okay.
And so we don't like a medal or anything, but that's how they culminate, is in not necessarily 26 miles. It could be a little bit less. It could be more. We've had a 50 before. And so I have to be in marathon shape. Otherwise you can't win the things. But I do run timed half marathons in the park behind my house, and that's kind of how I train. And then occasionally I'll go longer than that, but to when I'm getting closer and closer to filming the challenge, which is the name of the show that I go on repetitively.
Okay. How fast can you do a half marathon in?
Right now, I don't know, but I think my best is in like the upper hour and 30s.
Oh yeah, you're flying. That's good. That's good. I'll just leave that alone. That's fast. I like it. There you go. I love running marathons myself, but I'm nowhere near that time frame. So what you said that, you started to reframe the question, and you said, this entrepreneurial passion, this entrepreneurial, path that you wanted to go on started early on. What was the first thing that you did that was really entrepreneurial, and how old were you?
I took a wheelbarrow when I was in like kindergarten down to the park. I mean, that also showcases the day and age I grew up in, that my parents let such a young person leave the house unattended. But I then dug up a bunch of dirt from the playground, and I took it back home, and I took out all the weeds and the rocks, and I went door to door, and I sold the quote unquote clean dirt to local gardeners, which I'm sure, like in hindsight, they were just appeasing me. But it was the beginning of, and then it turned into, lemonade sales, and then eventually lawn mowing and car detailing. And then I got into boxing promotions and bar ownership in college. And around college time is when I came up with the idea for Beta Blocks, which is like kind of this cohort style for equity coaching program that is the thing that I've been doing for basically the entirety of my career.
Wow, that's awesome. So this really has been a part of your DNA since you were just a kid, since you were just a little boy.
Yeah. And I would say about 20% of the entrepreneurs that we hang out with, and I hang out with thousands of them on an annual basis, maybe 20% or so, maybe even way less actually, relate to that. Maybe 5% relate in the way that I was passionate as like that young. And then I'd say a total of 20% relate from maybe the high school age or college age. And so I say that because I don't want to dissuade someone that's not like that didn't find the itch or the desire to start a company until later on in life, because most of the people that we work with, invest in, and are our clients did not have that type of passion when they were children, but I did for whatever reason.
I would say it's very few. I meet with many entrepreneurs in many different platforms and ways, and I would say that it's very rare that I hear of somebody on that path that young. But
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. So you get on your first reality TV show, and that's The Real World. What almost
Yep.
20 years ago?
Yeah, we just had our 20-year reunion, so it's about exactly that.
Okay, so 20 years ago, you get into reality TV. You won that, correct?
Well, that very, very first one is such an anomaly in the whole thing because unlike all the others, there's no game inside of it. You just sit in a house and they film you. So
Okay.
that's the original reality show is that one. It's like, 7 strangers living in a house picked to, whatever, I forget the line at this point, but picked to have their lives taped or whatever. I forget what the line is. But yeah, we just hung out and basically binge drank and had fun for what amounted to 3 months, and that plays on MTV.
So you get into the real world. You want to be an entrepreneur. One, how did you get into the real world? Was that part of your entrepreneurial plan, or did that just kind of happen by accident?
Again, it was all accident. I mean, my bio for the real world was like entrepreneurially minded. It was the word that they put. And, in my like interviews, we talked about this types of things that I was starting. Now, granted, they were not, you know, business incubators. They were college-esque levels of maturity, right? Like bars and boxing promotions is about as immature of a thing to want to get into, which is exactly what a 20-year-old starts at that
Right.
age, which is essentially what that boils down to. So again, that itch and that desire, so it's just that path that I've just been always on. And then when I applied to the real world, let's be honest, I mean, it was to get girls. It had nothing to do with supplementing my entrepreneurship, and I have definitely found ways to make it supplement my entrepreneurship stuff. But if anything, over the course of the last 20 years, it's slowed it down and distracted it. So it hasn't helped. I've found a way to make the best of it, but it's not like it's definitely hurt. It's not by a lot, what I'm about to say, just a little bit, but it's definitely hurt me more than it's helped me.
That's interesting. I wouldn't think that, but you think it's held you back a little bit.
There's a couple main reasons. The big one being that these games that I film, the challenge that I've done about 20 times, averages, let's say I'm away for a month and a half, and then all the weightlifting and running and stuff, it's just very distracting. Then all the responsibilities, before and after it, which are kind of like press and touring related, are just distracting. Like if you're out flying around doing all this kind of stuff, and it's not like when I check into these games, I've got my computer and my phone and I'm out grinding. They take those things away from you, and whatever I'm working on, kind of from a momentum standpoint, grinds to a screeching halt. And then there's the other kind of thing, like, obviously, like from a business standpoint, I have made it. And I am now physically right now on a business podcast, and all we're talking about is television. And so you can imagine every room that I'm in and has been for the last 20 years, that always kind of the business side of things almost always plays second fiddle, just because the TV stuff is just so sexy. People are enamored by it and are curious about it, excited about it, whatever. And so it's hard for press, investors, clients to basically treat me as anything other than the television star first. Now, someone like you who's gone through our programs and probably didn't even know who I was until you got to the program, that's very different, but it's also designed that way. You don't see me on the website. You don't see me as part of anything really. And almost all of our clients, best clients, go in through it that way. Like I want them to sign up for the program for what it is. And then whatever their feelings about me as the leader being a television star, I want them to know about both of those things, but I want them to make their decisions and do their due diligence in proper order. Because if there's one thing I've proven is that a television star can be a very successful entrepreneur and be very smart. But if there's one thing that society has proven is that they don't want to digest that statement. Because if they have to start coming to grips with the fact that the people that they want to make fun of on TV are smarter and more successful than them, it's going to take all the fun.
Yeah,
it's going to take all
absolutely.
the fun out of relax in a relaxing way watching TV, because you like to watch TV and look at the disasters on TV and know that they're just kind of wastes of space. But if you knew that in between all those shows, I was out doing what I do, you would feel bad about yourself. And that was basically advice that MTV gave me. Once my business stuff started to really work, I was sat down by executives and they were like, listen, we're going to keep this separate, not because we want to not promote you or what all that stuff, but we want you to build your own character as part of in our universe that has nothing to do with you being incredibly well-rounded. And it was very, very good advice.
That's amazing. And it's true. When I went through the Blocks program, I did not know that you were a reality TV star. I didn't learn that until later on. But I will say that from the business standpoint, one of the most captivating things that I heard you share about in the Beta Blocks program was this idea of the one night stand. And that a lot of times the way that a client is treated is like a one night stand. And you share a narrative where you are this sexy ginger who, happens to roll into a bar and you're looking for the love of your life. And it's been so traumatic having these women chase you for the last 20 years. And you just want love and passion and
treat me like a piece of meat.
That's right. That's right. And it's so tough to be a piece of meat. But at the end of the day,
at first it's not, just so you know. At first it's not. It eventually is not cool though. Yeah.
Okay, so it's got a shelf life.
Yeah, it's got a shelf life. It like a lot of things that you want in life, right? The supercars and having everybody think you're rich and the women, all that kind of stuff is all as great as it sounds at first. And then there are just long-term drawbacks to all of it. And then you eventually have to just make sure that your priorities are on straight. But I use that, by the way, that analogy is inspired by a woman named Layla Hermosi, who's now a famous business coach and investor. And I heard her give that analogy on her podcast. So I want to make sure I give credit to her because it was just a really good analogy. I obviously douched it up a lot.
Sure.
She was a lot more professional when she said the analogy. I basically put myself in this fake elongated situation. But the analogy is to talk about how entrepreneurs sometimes do such a good job getting to the sale, and they'll promise the moon to their clients or their customers. They'll say they're going to do all this stuff. They'll set the bar really high. They'll spend all this money on marketing and ad dollars. And then as soon as the first dollar comes in, they basically turn into these disorganized messes where they're not fulfilling on their promises. And and we teach that analogy during the customer success class, where we talk about how it's really important to crush what it is that you promised, and for like all the right reasons. But then the main wrong reason that we actually teach this particular class is because we're worried about customer retention. We want them to stay with us because it's cheaper to keep a customer than it is to get a new one. And so even though, again, the right reason to do well by your customers is because you promised it and it's the nice thing to do, the wrong reason though matters as well. Whereas if we do what we promise and we provide them things like time to value and great onboarding and great expectation management and so on and so forth, there's like 8 steps that we take people through. They're more likely to stay for like 3, 4, 5 times as long, and the total lifetime value of what we can earn from them is a lot more by a big margin. So that's why we teach that. But it's I like to have inappropriate analogies for all the boring topics that we teach, because the thing you went through, I mean, it's a total of 10. I'm on stage for 10 hours total.
Yeah.
And that's just my portion, let alone all the other coaches that are there to kind of supplement and play the games, do all the coaching and stuff. So I have to take these otherwise dry topics and I say douche it up, but it's really just, I basically have comedy routines that are built into the curriculum. So that way you're laughing and you're intimately engaged with the stories and stuff. And then by the end of it, you're like, oh shoot, I actually just learned about search engine optimization, but I didn't really even whatever fill in blank boring and / important topic we're getting through. And it's, I did it at first because I just am a little bit into comedy. But then when I started to realize that when I started to get compliments over like kind of what I just said, how people normally aren't able to pay attention in class environments, and they were for mine, and then they started to explain why, then I started to be much more proactive about, I now write jokes and get into character, and I treat my classes more as I'd call it like 25% as like a comedy show and 75% as a professor. And what we're proving is that it increases their retention of these very important topics, but they're dry topics.
Right. But I think mission critical to the success of any business. Like, you aren't going to be successful in business if you don't take care of your customer. And I don't know when I was on the beta blocks, but it's coming to about a year. It's been about a year, but I remember that stand up and that share like it was yesterday, because I'm not going to forget the one night stand story, right? You told it so well. So I think that's a really awesome way to teach entrepreneurs. Now, you started your own entrepreneurial journey since a little kid, and then there was a moment where you had to really, bear down and say, man, I'm going for this entrepreneurial journey, because it didn't start with a McLaren race car in the driveway, right? It started with buckling down. You named your dog Bootstrap. Like, you had to really buckle down and build. Where did this start? Where did it come from?
Well, I mean, any good entrepreneur knows the importance of frugality and grittiness, and I think that I kind of have that period. But then it was around that, so we started very frugal and using every dollar as intelligently as we could, and to use and bartering and collaborating as much as possible, while I the entire time had my version of a part-time job to keep kind of the lights on. But it was around the second or so year where I was finally getting an idea of how long it was going to take for this to pay off. And the answer was, I could tell it was going to work. There was data that basically screamed this was going to make me rich. It just was going to take a lot longer than I thought. And so what I did was, my then girlfriend, now wife, I convinced her and my 150 plus pound Saint Bernard to move into my parents' house for 2 years, while we basically poured every single dollar that we had into the business. And so I didn't have, I mean, it was right back into Lunchables and Capri Suns, which was pretty nice as well. And what's sad is people joke about that, but that stereotype for me was so spot on. I was a grown ass adult with getting served Lunchables and stuff, but it was quite nice. But I was able to, that way my living expenses went down to about as low as possible, which extended my runway, which allowed me to stall and sacrifice. But there's just so, I mean, think about think about how much kind of in hindsight, it felt like the only option, but I didn't realize how courageous it was until looking back on it now. But I was in my late 20s, I believe at the time, maybe early 30s. I might've been 30. So as a grown adult with a girlfriend, and I'm also a television star, and I have to basically take the ego, shoot it in the face, and move in with my parents. And that was a lot of sacrifice. Looking back though, I mean, not only was it so smart, but it also proved that my wife was in it for like the totally right reasons. And it was also like this next fun chapter that I got to have with my parents too, which is irrelevant for this conversation, but it was cool to be able to live with them and as adult. But ultimately, like my friends and such, the internet is really doesn't quite understand why I deserve a McLaren, as an example. But they want to gloss over stories like the ones I just told, and or they're ill prepared to make sacrifices like that themselves.
Those are huge sacrifices. And then you tell another story about basically, setting your business up in some caves and then bartering the rent for free.
Yeah. So they are technically considered mines, because as soon as I learned this a long time ago, as soon as a man carves anything out of the ground. It goes from cave to mine. But
Okay.
Kansas City has more underground converted cave space than anywhere else in the country. The specific facility that I was in was called the Downtown Underground in Kansas City, and it was the total space, so not my space. I had 10,000 square feet, which is way more than I needed. But the total space was 1.2 million square feet of underground space, mostly storage and warehousing stuff. But the owner, who was a very forward-thinking, great person, great family, great company, Lester Dean is his name. I saw something in the paper that said he was looking to collaborate with people that had access to entrepreneurs, and I was building this incubator that was going to do nothing but serve entrepreneurs. And so I contacted an employee of his, which started the conversation where I asked if we built a collaboration together where we got our $0 in rent for the first 4 years. I had to pay common area maintenance, space, and some other things to ensure that there was some small skin in the game and be a good member of their community. But my first 4 years and I had to renovate some areas that they then profited from in the long run. But it was a good relationship. But that's one of the ways that we raise capital in the early days is bartering. And everyone wants to talk about how do you raise fill in the blank amount of money, but then you forget, I'm only getting money so I can use that money to pay for these things that we refer to as inputs. And some of those inputs we can earn or share or collaborate with or barter with. And that's exactly what I did for what was at the time probably what would have been, if it wasn't free, it would have been my largest expense. And so it went from my largest expense to if you count the internet fees and the electricity and all that kind of stuff, it went to one of my smaller expenses.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. So you build this up, you fast forward, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think within your incubated business program, you have what is it $1 billion in businesses under management, or was it 100 million? I couldn't remember what it was.
This year in 2024, our clients did somewhere in the neighborhood. This is a very hard number to keep track of, but I'm undershooting it by I think probably about $100 million or so. Our clients did about $250 million in sales, and that's trending towards $1 billion in the next 2 or so years. But that's a really big number to say, and I want to make sure that when I do eventually say it, that we've overshot it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So these companies come in and they get incubated. How does that process work? How does someone apply? Do you pick anybody? Is it very is it very rigorous to get involved with your group? What does that look like?
Well, so our flagship program is a 6-month hands-on, in-person, what amounts to prep school for startup companies in exchange for 5% equity of their business. And that is what the flagship Beta Blocks program is. We've expanded for a number of reasons into other types of programs that help entrepreneurs at different stages. Like the Blocks is a 1-week-long boot camp. Alpha Blocks is an online internet, like remote digital academy only. The graduate school stuff is a virtual school that climaxes with a 4-day mastermind in Kansas City. And we actually just launched something called Sigma Blocks, which is a combination of a boot camp and a mastermind for military technologies and in the defense tech space. So there's all sorts of different entrepreneurs at different stages of business. We have different programs for those things. But to answer your question, for the main flagship thing, it's very hard to get in. I have denied over 10,000 people to their face.
Wow.
I don't do the interviews anymore, which is why that number hasn't grown for a long time. But back when I was doing everything 100% myself, I would bring them in for these 20-minute in-person meetings. And it was quicker for me at the end of that meeting. If I knew it was a no, it ended up in less total time for me if I just told them right then and there why, as opposed to kind of waiting, and it just had less problems. So I would basically give them an invitation to the next step to their face right there, or I would deny them right there. Occasionally I'd need to do more due diligence, but for the most part, there was still another 2 steps. So I didn't mind if I let them in, if they were on the fence, like who cared if I let them into the second to last step. But the third to last step was an in-person meeting. I didn't deny over 10,000 people. Statistically, it's harder to get into Beta Blocks than it is to Harvard Business School. And so I think that answers all your questions.
No, that's awesome. What would you say the number one reason is that you denied people?
They're too early. Our main program basically charges equity, so 5% ownership of their business, instead of what amounts to, and this is a tough to nail down number, somewhere between $25,000 and $150,000 in value. It's hard to nail that down because we work at different levels of rigor for different companies based on what their needs are. But generally speaking, it's fair to say that what they get is about $50,000 worth of coaching services, and they get access to our space and access to our investors and the classes and the community, all that kind of stuff. And if I was going to charge for it in cash, it'd be about 50 grand. But obviously that doesn't align well for an early stage business. So that's why we have that as an option to pay in equity. But then if they're paying in equity, we have to basically be making investment decisions, and investment decisions in the early stage business has a lot to do with traction. And so more often than not, they get denied because they just haven't done enough. They haven't even launched anything. There are no minimally viable products that are out there. There are no KPIs to point to. There's no proof that they have invested any of their own personal dollars into this. They haven't painted themselves into a corner. They don't have prototypes yet. The list goes on.
Yep.
And I'm not investing in any capacity in ideas.
And when you're looking at a company, you're not doing the interviews today, but when you're looking at a company, what's the number one thing you're looking for in a company?
Well, I mean, if it's traction, but if we skip past the traction, then we're looking at how would you put this? The size and the pain factor of the problem would be a big one. Right? If you're, I don't care how elegant your solution is and how fun it is to talk about, but if what you do is not solving something that truly hurts the customer, then it's going to make it hard to get money for a long time. Like we want to be solving problems that are hurting people. They say, again, I don't know where I stole this from. I forget. I used to know, but I haven't given this analogy in a long time. But again, in an inappropriate analogy, okay, the appropriate version of this was the difference between painkillers and vitamins. Like you would much rather be selling a painkiller than a vitamin because you can't really tell that a vitamin is really doing anything. And so, but the inappropriate version of that is like you don't want to be selling either of those. You want to be selling Viagra. Because when you need it, how much are you willing to spend on a vitamin? And the answer is, I don't know, 3 cents. When you need it, how much are you willing to spend on an ibuprofen? And the answer is, I don't know, $3. And when you need it, how much are you willing to spend on a Viagra? And the answer might be $3,000, depending upon the situation, right? And so when you look at it through that very inappropriate lens, we want our entrepreneurs to be solving things that are a level of problem to the market that are big, because the customers will be less resistant to opening their wallets and continuing to purchase from us.
I love that. That's great. And there's a lot of snow out there in Kansas City right now, and the amount of money to plow a parking lot there right now is 10 times what it was a week ago. I know. I have 31 stores that are saying, "Can you come plow me right now in Kansas City?" And the checkbook is kind of unlimited at the moment.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I love the analogy. So you roll through the program, you create this gamified television show, The Blocks, and that seems to just be going gangbusters. Like seems to be thousands of people who want to participate in this. There's hundreds, and I don't know how many are in a season, but there seems to be hundreds of people applying, and that is kind of the latest. Or you've got another program called Sigma, I think, that's after that. But you've kind of got the TV show rolling. What is the plan with that, and where do you see that going in the future?
So I'm not 100% sure what the plan is, other than I know it's helping a lot of people and it's a lot of fun. And it is also putting a really serious light on all my other programs that are much more profitable. And so it feels like it's where I need to be for the time being. And I have a lot of fun with it, to say the least. But the plan is that it is going gangbusters, and there is a large demand. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100,000+ applicants annually, and then we did more seasons than we'll ever do again in a year. This year, I think we did like 9 seasons. I think we're probably going to do like 6 seasons in 2025. But the only reason we're backing down in seasons is because of the momentum of the blocks opened up at these other things. Like, it's because of the blocks that we have this thing called Sigma blocks, which is the military version, is what it boils down to. And then there's this other thing that you've done, which we call the graduate schools, which are only around because of the blocks. And so like it's weird. It's like the success of the blocks is eating the blocks and just building by massive amounts of demand, all this, and payment, all these other things. And so it's been a pretty cool journey.
What is your favorite thing to do in business?
In business, I mean, I love the class portion, and I like the performance element of it, because like I'm still a television star, and this scratches the itch a little bit to get on stage. And when I see the epiphanies on people's faces when they start to get something that really matters to them, it's a huge turn on. And if I can make them laugh while doing it, it's also another huge turn on. And it's really fun to hear people that say things like they did really poorly in school, but yet I'm changing their lives in this environment. And or that because of what we're doing, it's increasing their likelihood that they're going to be able to accomplish the American dream. And even though that's all on them and all of the accolades need to be theirs, all the money needs to be theirs, but knowing at the end of my career that there's going to be some unknown amount of humans that were able to accomplish the American dream in part because of me is a legacy that feels right for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm a believer in your program. I think it's absolutely incredible. You hear that all the time. So that is what it is. But, I think as I look at it, this is 21 years in business. I've done over $100 million in sales, right? Multiple brands. It's successful. I went on the blocks because I was like, oh, this is TV, and I've got this nonprofit honey business, and I want to get that on TV, right? And, many people said, man, why would you come on the blocks? Like, you're already a successful entrepreneur. But I think I learned more on the blocks about entrepreneurship and business, and having gone to Harvard Business School, and having, many CEO coaches and coaching over the last, I won't say that I did coaching in the beginning, because it probably took me 10 years to even get in that, to, hiring a coach and going down that path. But the way that you've broken it down, simple, MVP, build, measure, learn, just like the story about, customer success, the one night stand, there's so many things to learn. In fact, every one of the websites for every one of my companies is now focused on the algorithm. I'll call it an algorithm. You'll call it something else. But the way you broke down what a website looks like, declaring the problem, instant clarity headline. You share this idea of Domino's Pizza, 30 minutes, it's fresh, it's fast, or it's free, right? We're declaring the problem, we're providing a solution, we're giving a time frame. These are little things that I've picked up. So in my mind, the program that you've put together isn't just for an entrepreneur. It isn't just for an entrepreneur who's saying, I want to get going. I don't have any money, but I'm going to learn about this. Like the things that you're teaching aren't just elementary, like they're advanced in nature, into the fact of like, I've been successful. I've got great people, but I'm still taking so many nuggets and so much information away that if I looked back at 2024, probably the best investment that I made in my business was the blocks, right?
I love to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that I was able to participate in it. So it's a win-win. But, for everybody out there who's looking to solve a problem and they're looking to take their business to the next level, how can anybody out there get into the blocks if it's available, or how do they go through that process? And in your mind, is it just for the early stage entrepreneur, or is it open to anybody?
I think that it's mostly designed for the early stage entrepreneur, but you can't go through a boot camp as world class as ours. And I mean, it is the anti-fluff thing. Like, it's an all day, everyday thing. It's almost probably too intense in the grand scheme of things. It's not a fluffy conference, right? And so a person like you that's much further along, even though there's a law of diminishing returns of what all you haven't already learned, if we improve your operation by 1%, that 1% times the $100 million means that we're going to improve your profit by $1 million. Like,
Yep.
And so you don't need that big of improvement to have it affect your bottom line in that big of a way. Now, contrast that to an early stage entrepreneur. We might be able to take them from a C- to a B- in that really intense week. And so there are way more gains, if you will, to the early stage entrepreneur, but even those small gains to someone that's far along is very, very helpful. And so to get involved, I mean, you would go to our website and you'd find the program that fits you the best, which more than likely is the blocks, the show. And then you'd apply and go through our casting process and then come and crush it.
And it's around $5,000, something like that. Is that?
Yep.
That's okay to share. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a show in the sense that we record it for a documentary and then we put it on the internet for free. And that also goes on Amazon Prime, which does make a tiny bit of money, but not not much. So, like, to say the least, it only actually makes money because we're not allowed to give it away for free there. But it also mostly is shown on our apps, on Facebook, on our website. And we have no sponsors and no ads on purpose. And so it makes no money. So we have to find a way to basically keep it going. And we have to feed everyone and house everyone and pay for all the things and all the travel and so on and so forth.
Sure.
And so,
it's an incredible outlay.
Yeah. People are basically paying the total cost of the week for my team divided by the amount of people that are there. So it's about it cost me about $500,000 a week to put on. And so and there's about 100 people there. And so that's roughly how we get the price.
Sure. So it's basically pays for itself. You learn, you grow, and then you delve into these other programs that, like you said, are basically eating the blocks. Well, yeah. I really appreciate your time today. It's been an incredible show. I've got one final question for you as we bring this in for a landing, and it's to any entrepreneur out there, whether they're advanced, whether they're startup, whether they're somewhere in the middle, what's one piece of advice that you would recommend any entrepreneur do in their business today?
Yeah. A few minutes ago, you said something like the minimally viable product and all that said. I want to make sure that we pay credit to Steve Blank and Eric Rees for kind of coming up with that protocol, because that is the basis. That's the base of our pyramid from a curriculum standpoint, is the lean startup. And even though lean startup matters the most, as we've used the phrase we've used, is the most gains from an academic standpoint are pre-launched of knowing how the lean startup works. But you should always be in the mindset and have the culture of the lean startup as part of your business, almost no matter how far along you get. And if I was to define the lean startup very, very rudimentary, it's the scientific method for business where where you understand that everything that comes out of your brain and mouth is just an educated guess. And like a good scientist would, you don't overthink it. You put out a cheap, dirty test to get the answers and make your guesses and turn them into facts. And we all too often as entrepreneurs think that because we're smarter than the average bears, that all of our assumptions are spot on, and we make these really radical bets on them. So we might build this new department that might take us a year to build, and then we launch it and it doesn't work. And so like an example of this, like we are one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. I believe, and I might be wrong on this, that this year, as of 2025, we're going to be the literal fastest growing company in my state. And yet I tried to launch a new program over the last like several weeks. It would have been a big program. The spreadsheet said it would have been the most profitable program that we've got. It's not all that much. It's not all that innovative from what we're already doing. In fact, it would cannibalize some of our other programs. And I found a way to test it. I was hyped. I was super ready to go, and we just started selling it. And it didn't sell. It should have. I'm not 100% sure. But other people would have said that's it, because I agreed that it was a great idea and we should have done it. But other people, we made all these decisions about what to invest into it before we started selling it. And I started selling it basically before it was built. Thankfully, I did that, because can you imagine if I had built the whole thing and invested what would have amounted to a year and hundreds of thousands of dollars? Instead, I spent essentially $0. I did spend about a month of my life on it, but I now have the answer to people don't want that thing that I had. And so the idea is that the lean startup and that culture prevented me from thinking that I'm some god because I have an idea. And instead, those ideas need to be written down and queued up and prioritized, but then they need to be tested in very, very fast, very cheap ways to get data to determine if it was something that you should double down on or kill. And even though it sucks to kill it, because man, you should have seen what the spreadsheet said. The spreadsheet said that I was going to be a billionaire. But guess what real life is? It's not spreadsheets. It's not your assumptions. It's not your forecasts. And so if I had relied on those types of things, the business plan and the ego and the guesses, like a lot of people do, I'd be out a year. I'd be out $250,000, if not more. And instead, I've got really great data, and I can now kind of retreat and go back to the things that are thriving. And then, in 3 to 6 months, I will have licked my wounds, which are very minimal. And then we'll try something else. And so it's that process that even as somebody that's now, according to LinkedIn, 17 years into this whole thing, I don't get rid of that as a part of my culture.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And what I hear you saying is just, look at where you're at, and, don't go all in. Like, use the philosophies in the lean startup. Don't spend $1 million building something that nobody's going to want to buy.
Yeah, find the cheapest way to prove that someone wants to buy it. And the cheapest way to do that is to build something really small, doesn't have all the features, that's not perfect, and attempt to sell it. Because if your thing is so good, it should be able to withstand not being fully done or fully perfect yet, even if you have to sell it at a discount. Now, obviously, that's a gross oversimplification, talking in terms of widgets, because we don't know who's listening to this and what they're selling at what stage. But a lot of entrepreneurs have a hard time believing that, because we were brought up at our age to be taught business plans and banks, and we use whiteboards, and we research everything, and all those are dirty words. Like those are all like, banks don't want to work with you. Business plans are worthless. It's a work of fiction. It's all about it's a book of all your egotistical ideas written down. And so we as entrepreneurs need to be much grittier, and more kind of just faster and cheaper, and while we're going out and just building up these kind of sparks. And we can turn it into a forest fire later, but we need to just get a spark going.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. If you're out there and you're listening, take a look at Beta Blocks. Put it into your browser, check it out, sign up, get in there. It's life-changing. It's an incredible program. No matter what it is, it's absolutely, I believe, paramount for your business, no matter what stage of an entrepreneurship you're on. Check out the Beta Blocks, get in there. follow Wes on LinkedIn. He's on Facebook, Instagram, probably anywhere where it's social. Check it out. Follow his social media feed. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere it's social. I'm hanging out. If you like the show, give us a like, give us a share, drop your comments into the comment box. We'll respond back. We're back 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Tuesday. Wes, thank you so much for taking your time and being on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.